I want you to imagine something for a second. Just uh, picture yourself standing on the cracked ferrocrete of a city street,
Right.
and you feel this vibration in your boot. And at first, your mind desperately tries to rationalize it.
Like maybe it's just an earthquake.
Yeah, exactly, an earthquake, or maybe like a distant macro cannon battery just firing off. But the tremors are rhythmic. They're deliberate, like boom, boom.
Oh, man.
And then the localized atmospheric pressure drops so fast that your ears actually pop. You look up, and the sun is literally blotted out.
Just completely gone.
Completely gone, replaced by a shadow that plunges your entire city block into this sudden freezing twilight. And the thing casting that shadow is a machine the size of a skyscraper.
A literal walking god made of iron.
Right, made of iron, pistons, and void shield generators.
Mhm.
And it's bristling with weaponry so massive it basically has its own gravitational pull.
Yeah.
It just steps entirely over you. Its footfall crushes a whole block into powdered dust with the kind of casual indifference of, a human stepping on an anthill.
It's terrifying just to think about.
It really is. And welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today our mission is to extract the absolute most fascinating, mind-bending insights from Dan Abnett's 2008 sci-fi epic Titanicus.
Which is such an incredible source text to dive into.
It really is. And right off the bat, I feel like Abnett forces you to completely reevaluate the sheer scale of the 41st millennium. Because this deep dive is going to serve as a bit of a shortcut to understanding a really dense, complex narrative.
Yeah, and that scale is exactly why this book occupies such a unique, monolithic space in the whole Black Library pantheon.
Right.
Because fans of Abnett, they usually know him for his incredibly intimate, character-driven narratives.
Eisenhorn. Right.
Exactly. You look at Eisenhorn, you look at Gaunt's Ghost. Those are fundamentally human-scale stories. They really focus on the mud, the grit, the personal paranoia of the Inquisition.
Or just the blood and guts reality of the Imperial Guard.
Right. You spend time in the heads of people navigating the grim darkness of the far future on a level that, well, we can somewhat relate to as human beings.
Yeah, you can understand a guy with a gun in a trench.
Precisely. But Titanicus is this massive, deliberate departure from that formula. Abnett just zooms all the way out.
Way out.
Yeah, it's a panoramic, really multifaceted look at a planetary conflict on the Forge world of Orestes. And the conflict isn't between squads of regular soldiers. It's this colossal clash between these god machines.
And honestly, the sheer terrifying scale of this conflict is basically the thematic anchor of the entire narrative.
It has to be.
Yeah, because the fundamental challenge for any writer tackling a subject like Titans is, how do you make a battle between walking skyscrapers feel grounded?
Right. How do you stop it from just feeling silly?
Exactly. How do you prevent it from just feeling like two plastic action figures being smashed together by a kid in a sandbox?
Yeah, the physics alone are absurd.
Right. But Abnett achieves this grounding so brilliantly right on the first page. Because he doesn't start the story up in the cockpit of a warlord Titan.
No, he starts in the dirt.
He starts right in the dirt.
And that is a masterclass in perspective right there. The narrative opens in medias res, just right in the chaotic, blinding middle of the invasion.
Uh-huh.
And it's from the viewpoint of a lone, utterly ordinary planetary defense force squad. Just regular PDF grunts trying to hold a line.
And he doesn't just have them put up a heroic fight.
Right. Oh, not at all. He has them instantly, casually obliterated by a massive Chaos Titan.
Or wiped out.
Wiped out. By forcing the reader into the boots of the infantry first, you immediately establish this terrifying baseline. He makes you look up at the threat from the ground rather than, looking down at it from some tactical display.
And the vulnerability in that opening sequence is just chilling to read.
It really sets the tone.
It does.
Hey.
Because as someone familiar with this universe, you're used to guardsmen fighting orcs or Tyranids or cultists.
Things that bleed.
Yeah. Things you can shoot. You can wrap your head around that combat geometry.
Well.
But this, okay, let's unpack that. It's basically like standing on a beach with a standard issue pistol, pointing it at a Category 5 hurricane and being told, go shoot that hurricane until it stops.
That is the perfect analogy.
Like, how do you even process the futility of that? The lasguns literally do nothing against the Titan's void shields. They aren't even a nuisance. They're just atmospheric static to this thing.
And that futility, that absolute powerlessness is the whole point. You aren't just told these machines are powerful.
Right.
You actively experience the terrifying insignificance of a human life when confronted by one. Because Orestes is a vital Mechanicus forge world, right?
Tenderly dedicated to heavy industry.
Exactly. And this invading force, this whole legion of Chaos Titans, they aren't just big targets to shoot at. They are these warped, corrupted, nightmarish subversions of the holy god machines.
Oh man, the descriptions of them are wild.
They're oozing warp taint. Their metal is literally fused with demonic flesh. And their scrap code emissions are driving the defenders insane before the guns even fire a single shot.
Plus, they brought the Dark Mechanicum with them. So the techno-horror element of this invasion is just completely off the charts.
Oh, the shock roaches.
Yes. Abnett introduces these things called shock roaches, which are just absolute nightmare fuel.
They really are.
Just these scuttling, chaotic demon engines tearing through the manufactorums. So Orestes is facing total, systematic annihilation. The planetary defenders are just completely outmatched.
Because humans cannot fight a hurricane.
Right. When you are facing a hurricane of corrupted metal and fire, the only real survival strategy is to summon a hurricane of your own.
Precisely. So they transmit this desperate, blindingly urgent astropathic plea to the wider Imperium. They basically say, we need our own Titan Legion to counter the invaders, or the Forge world falls today.
Which brings us to the arrival of the Imperium's defenders, Legiu and Victa. And I really love the condition they are in when they arrive.
It's so gritty.
Yeah. They don't drop out of the warp in these gleaming, pristine parade colors.
No, they're answering this call straight from another completely brutal war zone.
Exactly. They are battered, their paint is scorched right off, their reactor cores are running hot, they're in desperate need of a refit and some serious maintenance.
But there's zero time for that.
Zero time. Orestes is burning, so they just drop straight from orbit into the fire.
Yeah.
And this was where we really need to look inside the cockpit. Because as scary as the outside is, the psychology of piloting one of these things is arguably more terrifying than the physical weapons they carry.
I would definitely agree with that. That is the true psychological core of the novel. If you want to understand the macro scale of this war, you actually have to understand the micro scale of the cockpit.
Right.
Abnett focuses heavily on Princeps Maximus Peter Gearhart. He's commanding the warlord titan called Invictus Antagonistes. And through Gearhart, we get this incredibly detailed, visceral look into the mechanics of the machine spirit.
I really want to spend some real time on this because, you know, machine spirit is a term that gets thrown around in 40K lore constantly.
Always time.
And usually it just means like the computer's glitching or remember to oil your bolter, right?
Exactly. It's treated like routine maintenance religion.
Yeah, but Abnett takes the concept of the Mind Impulse Unit, the MIU, and turns it into pure psychological horror. This isn't a pilot sitting in a chair pushing pedals. Gearhart is suspended in an amniotic tank.
No.
Right.
Yes. The physical reality of being a princeps is actually pretty grotesque when you look at it. They're suspended in this nutrient-rich conductive fluid, and they're hardwired directly into the Titan's manifold.
It's so visceral.
It is. They aren't just driving a vehicle. They are melding their central nervous system with an ancient, aggressive, semi-sentient entity.
Wow.
A warlord titan is thousands of years old. It has a consciousness. It has this predatory will that's been forged in centuries of constant slaughter.
Right, it's not a blank slate.
Not at all. What's fascinating here is that when a princeps connects, their human consciousness is instantly flooded with the sensory input of a skyscraper.
I can't even imagine that.
You feel the reactor heat in your own chest. You feel the void shields as if they were your own skin.
It's like, imagine trying to run a modern operating system on this hostile, ancient, alien hardware network.
Yeah.
And the hardware actively resents you and constantly wants to overwrite your code. If you know plugging your brain into this machine that is entirely built for the singular purpose of apocalyptic destruction is going to slowly eat your soul, how do you even justify that sacrifice?
It's a huge question. Is the machine in control or is the human?
Right, because the book makes it very clear that the machine is actively, continuously threatening to erase who you are.
And that is the true dehumanizing cost of war that Abnett is exploring here. The older and more experienced the princeps gets, well, the less human they remain. The machine's predatory urges just become their own.
It bleeds over.
It does. When Gearhart is disconnected, when he is forced to walk around in his frail organic body, he feels blind. He feels amputated.
Wow.
He actually views unaugmented humans as just fragile, fleeting meat. Losing one's individuality is the literal price of operating the Imperium's greatest weapons. It is a constant, exhausting battle of wills before the Titan even takes a single step toward the enemy.
The friction there is just fascinating to me. The human ego desperately clinging to his edges while floating in this ocean of ancient digital rage.
Beautifully put.
Thanks. But what really elevates Titanicus for me is that this struggle for control, this clash between human logic and massive, overwhelming forces, it isn't just happening inside the amniotic tanks.
No, it's everywhere.
It's happening on a societal, political level across the entire planet of Orestes. And it's driven by the deeply bizarre, obsessive culture of the tech priests who built them, the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Right, the priesthood of Mars. You really cannot separate a story about Titans from the politics of the Mechanica.
No, they're completely intertwined.
They are a semi-independent empire within the Imperium. They believe that knowledge is divine, that machines are holy, and that flesh is fundamentally weak and flawed.
Everything they do is a ritual.
Exactly. Loading a macro cannon isn't just a physical action, it's a literal act of worship. They have their own unique language and their own incredibly rigid social hierarchy.
And the politics on Orestes are incredibly volatile even before the Chaos Titans show up.
Yeah.
We get introduced to Adept Feist, right?
Yes, Feist.
He's this high-ranking researcher tasked with analyzing enemy Titan data. And through Feist, we see how their religious dogma violently clashes with what we would normally consider scientific pragmatism.
It's a huge source of tension.
Which brings us to the friction between the defenders themselves. Because you have two rival factions here. You've got Legio Invicta, Gearhart's Legion, who are pragmatic, battered veterans.
Right.
But they are forced to work alongside Legio Tempestus, who are essentially the complete opposite.
Yes. Legio Tempestus forms this brilliant contrast. Where Invicta is pragmatic and battle-hardened, Tempestus is rigid. They're unblooded in this specific theater, and they are heavily defined by unyielding theological stances.
They treat war differently.
They really do. They approach warfare not primarily as a tactical problem to be solved, but as a religious liturgy to be performed perfectly.
Which is crazy when you're fighting for your life.
It creates immense friction in the command structure. You have allied forces fundamentally disagreeing on the philosophy of how to kill the enemy.
Which is a powder keg. And right in the middle of this apocalyptic planetary invasion, while the cities are literally burning and Chaos Titans are marching on the Forge temples, a massive political conspiracy erupts.
The MacGuffin of the whole story.
Exactly, the schism. A faction of these tech priests uncovers forbidden data in a locked-away ancient archive. And this data suggests the ultimate heresy.
Oh,
It
yeah.
suggests that the God Emperor of humanity is not the true Omnicia.
We really need to unpack the philosophical gravity of that discovery.
Please do, because it's massive.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the entire alliance between the Imperium of Man and the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Treaty of Olympus, is based on the theological compromise that the Emperor is the physical avatar of the machine god, the Omnissiah.
Right.
If this ancient data proves otherwise, it means their entire religion has been hijacked. It means the Imperium is a parasite. It means the Mechanicus has been worshipping a false idol for 10 millennia.
It just completely pulls the rug out from under them. But the timing, I mean, it's absolute madness.
It's the worst possible time.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. They are facing total extinction from the Dark Mechanicum. And instead of organizing the defense, the ruling body of the Forge world starts plotting to break away from the Imperium.
They risk a full-blown civil war.
Right as they are being invaded. It's like trying to perform emergency open-heart surgery, but while you're doing it, the doctors are actively arguing over whether medicine is even real.
That's a great way to put it.
The internal ideological rifts could literally be more devastating than the giant chaos robots waiting outside the walls.
And that's how this theological intrigue elevates the book from a simple action story. It explores the theme of the fragility of unity. The Imperium is constantly presented in lore as this monolithic, unyielding structure.
Right, united humanity.
But here, Abnett pulls back the curtain and shows us it's not a monolith at all. It's actually a deeply fragile alliance of disparate factions that are constantly on the brink of tearing each other apart over ideology.
Which brings us to the people who are actually paying the price for all this high-level political and theological maneuvering.
The people on the ground.
Exactly. Because while the high priests argue theology in their vaulted data shrines, and the princeps wrestle with machine spirits in their cockpits, the regular people of Orestes are trapped in the crossfire.
And this is where the narrative structure of Titanicus is just so ambitious. It's a true ensemble
It
piece.
really gives you that panoramic view.
Exactly. We aren't just following Gearhart or Feist. We are seeing the war from every conceivable vertical slice of society. These interconnected storylines are brilliant.
Let's dive into some of those micro-narratives. Back up in the Titan hangars, there's this incredible interpersonal dynamic between Maserati Zane Tarses and his new princeps, Guido Prinzhorn.
Ah, yes.
Tarses is Invicta. He's practical, he just wants to survive. Prinzhorn is Tempestus. He's dogmatic, inexperienced, but mathematically he outranks Tarses.
All right, they're forced into the same cockpit.
It's this incredibly claustrophobic microcosm of the larger political schism, but trapped inside a walking death machine. If they fail to synchronize, the feedback loop could literally fry their brains.
It creates such brilliant tension, but Abnett doesn't let us just stay in the cockpit. He immediately forces us down to the ground level, into the mud with the regular military. Like Varko, the PDF tank commander.
Oh, Varko. His perspective is so grounding, his entire unit is decimated almost instantly.
Yeah, right away.
And his story isn't about grand heroism. He's not going to figure out a trick to blow up a warlord titan. His entire narrative is just a gritty, desperate struggle to survive the next hour with his remaining crew.
Inside a metal box that is rapidly becoming an oven.
That's exactly.
Contrast is essential. Gearhart is worried about losing his soul to a demigod of war. Varko is worried about the atmospheric pressure of a titan's footstep instantly vaporizing his tank.
It's a completely different scale of fear.
It really emphasizes the scale by showing us what it's like to be an insect in a battle of giants. And then Abnett zooms in even further. He completely removes us from the military structure and introduces Manfred Zember.
The Hive City toy maker.
Yes.
The juxtaposition there is almost cruel. He's a man who builds intricate, miniature clockwork machines, offering a purely civilian perspective of the looming apocalypse. He's completely powerless watching giant machines tear his world apart.
He has zero agency.
Zero. He just has to watch the sky catch fire and hope the void shields hold. It really forces you to confront the civilian reality of a 40K war zone, which is honestly usually just treated as background flavor text.
Zember reminds you that every time one of those weapons fires, innocent people whose lives revolve around utterly mundane things are just erased from existence.
Now, I want to pivot to the storyline that really seems to divide readers. And I have to be completely transparent here. When I first read Titanicus, the pacing of this specific subplot completely threw me. We're talking about the Callie and Stefan Samstag storyline.
The infantry reservist and her husband.
Right. So you have these incredible continent-shaking Titan engagements, and then Abnett certainly cuts away to a cramped Hive City apartment where a reservist's civilian husband is having a severe panic attack.
Yes, Stefan crumbling mentally on the home front.
Exactly. Callie is out in the trenches facing literal demons, and Stefan is back home, his mind slowly unraveling under the pressure of her deployment. And initially I found it, well, jarring.
Yeah.
Frustrating even.
You're definitely not alone in that reaction.
I remember thinking, why are we stepping away from the epic sci-fi war to focus on a collapsing domestic marriage? It feels completely disconnected.
That is a very common criticism of the book. Many critics argue it is too long, overly complex for newcomers, and burdened by extraneous subplots.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Callie and Stefan storyline is often called infuriating and pointless. People argue it doesn't advance the macro plot in any meaningful way.
But here's where I actively want to defend the inclusion of these so-called pointless storylines. Because after letting it sit, I had this massive realization. Doesn't war fundamentally feel pointless and chaotic to the people on the ground?
That is exactly why Abnett included it.
Right. The disconnection of the home front crumbling while the soldier fights is the most realistic human element in a book about walking metal gods. Think about it. The tech priests are willing to burn their planet down over theology. The princeps are worried about their egos.
And Stefan.
Stefan doesn't care about the Omnissiah. He doesn't care about the engine war. He is just a guy whose wife was drafted, and the sheer terror of the war is destroying his mind.
It grounds the fantasy so well.
It does. The pointless nature of their suffering isn't a flaw. It's the fundamental thesis of the grimdark setting.
If you view it through the thematic lens of perspective and conflict, it is the keystone of the entire book. By showing every level of society, the novel reveals how the exact same war has drastically different meanings depending on your status.
Beautifully said.
And what Abnett does next is masterful, because he takes all these separate threads, the civilians, the desperate tankers, the rival Titan pilots, and the arguing tech priests, and they are violently pulled together.
Oh man, the second wave.
Yes. the unexpected second wave.
Just when the Imperial defenders think they might have a tactical handle on the invasion, this second, vastly larger force of Chaos Titans makes planetfall. The threat level jumps from dire to just mathematically impossible.
It's a massive turning point. It forces a complete paradigm shift. This is Abnett employing the classic enemy mine trope.
Where the common enemy forces you to work together.
Exactly. The common threat forces rival factions to set aside their deep-seated dogmatic differences purely to survive.
You can't debate theology when you're about to be stepped on.
No, you cannot. Pragmatism is violently forced upon the dogmatic. The theological debate over the Omnissiah suddenly has to evaporate because they are looking down the barrel of a corrupted Imperator-class Titan.
Let's talk about the Imperator, because that sets the stage for the climax. The final battle is this epic, open-field Titan engagement. Lines of skyscraper-sized machines marching at each other.
The scale is unfathomable.
And the anchor of the Chaos Line is this Imperator. For those who aren't super steeped in the lore, an Imperator isn't just a big robot. It is essentially a walking mountain.
With a literal cathedral built on its back.
Yes. Its main guns fire shells the size of hablocks. Just moving should break the crust of the planet.
Right.
So the Imperial defenders are looking at this thing and they realize standard tactics are useless. To even scratch it, they have to deploy a highly dangerous, completely forbidden Mechanicus technique.
The Mind Link.
The Mind Link.
We discussed earlier how incredibly traumatic and difficult it is for a single human mind to interface with a single warlord Titan. The sensory overload and ego erosion are immense. Now, to destroy the enemy's massive Imperator, the desperate plan is to network multiple Titans and their respective highly aggressive digital consciousnesses into a single princeps.
Which sounds suicidal.
It basically is. The neurological, psychological, and spiritual strain of doing this is unimaginable. It is forcing a human brain to process the rage of a half-dozen ancient war gods simultaneously.
But it works, right?
It works, but at an incredible cost.
The climax is described almost as a curb-stomp victory once the link is established. The concentrated firepower brings the Imperator down. But Abnett refuses to let it be a clean, heroic win.
Not at all.
It is entirely framed through the lens of catastrophic human sacrifice. And this brings us back to Varco, the PDF tank commander.
Varco's fate is the perfect encapsulation of the novel's themes. This man spent the entire narrative crawling through the mud, using every ounce of his grit just to keep his crew breathing.
Just trying to survive.
But in the climax, his survival skills are totally irrelevant. Varco and his crew die in sacrificial acts to ensure this Titan victory.
It's so bleak.
They are just a necessary mathematical casualty to give the god machines the opening they need. It underscores the dehumanizing nature of the conflict. His individual struggle ultimately meant nothing in the face of macro-tactical necessity.
It's a total gut punch.
Yeah.
You spend hundreds of pages rooting for this guy, and he is casually erased as a footnote. Which leads us to the bittersweet ambiguity of the ending.
A hollow victory.
Exactly. The Chaos Invasion is defeated, the corrupted engines are scrap metal, the theological schism is narrowly averted. They basically decide to sweep the heresy under the rug for the sake of stability. But the victory is profoundly hollow.
So what does this all mean for the people left behind?
I mean, the hollowness is driven home most devastatingly in the conclusion of Callie Samstag's storyline. Callie survives. She fights in the mud, she survives the impossible war, and she returns home a war hero.
And what does she find?
She finds that her husband, Stefan, has been killed. But not by a Chaos Titan. He had a complete mental breakdown and was gunned down by local Imperial law enforcement.
It is devastating.
The very people he was supposed to be safe with. It's suffocating. You survive the demons, but you lose to the police state.
It perfectly encapsulates the grim reality of the setting. Now, this raises an important question. This ending, much like the subplots, has generated a lot of debate.
Right. People say it's rushed.
Exactly. Some readers feel the climax is rushed and leaves character arcs unresolved. Like Maserati Zane Tarse's murder case subplot that doesn't get a neat conclusion.
People want the neat little bow on top.
But is a rushed, unresolved ending actually a flaw? Or is it a brilliant reflection of the chaotic nature of war, where neat closures don't exist and the status quo is maintained at a terrible cost?
It has to be a brilliant reflection. In a planetary conflict involving billions of casualties, neat closures are a fairy tale. Murder cases get lost in the rubble. People die senselessly. The lack of resolution is the most honest part of the narrative.
I agree completely. It forces you to sit with the discomfort. Titanicus can be difficult for newcomers, yes, but it succeeds brilliantly at world building, visceral action, and juxtaposing the grand theology of the Mechanicus with the frail, relatable human element.
And that is exactly why you, listening to this right now, should care about a story set 40,000 years in the future. Because beneath the sci-fi trappings, this story serves as a profound meditation on how ideology and the massive machinery of war strip away human individuality.
It's highly relevant even in our own modern, hyper-connected world.
Absolutely. The vast systems we build can very quickly become the things that consume our humanity. So we're going to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder on your own.
Something to really think about.
When the dust settles on Orestes, the machines are repaired and the theology remains intact. But considering the psychological rewriting of the Princeps and the senseless devastation of families like the Samstags, ask yourself, if you have to sacrifice your humanity to operate the machine that saves you, did you actually survive the war at all?